buenos noches, ladies and gentlemen, germs, boys, girls, creatures of all ages, everything in between. I love you all here at Grant Me the Sanity podcast, our first episode, our inaugural episode. My name is Victor. You don't need to know my last name. I am your host, and I've always wanted to do podcasting, but never really had the balls to do it, right? I've been talking about it for ages. Been an avid listener and appreciator of the podcast art form, and have been, like I said, talking about it. You ask my fiance, she would gladly tell you that I never shut the fuck up about it. You'll meet her eventually. This podcast has to do with all things recovery and beyond. It has to do with life in general, right? Which is what I'm interested in. I just also happen to be in recovery. But we will cover a pretty broad spectrum of life, but it will pretty much all lead back to getting better. Getting better in your personal life, at work, with your family, not at sex necessarily. That's a different podcast you'll want. Primarily just interested in how to live a more fulfilling life without putting any fucking chemicals in our bodies. What it means to be human, pretty much. Today's reading, a quote from Anonymous: "When you can't stand criticism, you learn to be a perfectionist. It's human to make mistakes and to feel incomplete. Perhaps if we were all smooth plastic printouts, we could expect perfection of ourselves. Each person is actually a process. We are not things, but events, happenings, and the events are still unfolding. These are our creative spiritual adventures. We have somehow learned that openness to criticism is dangerous. Perhaps we thought someone would not like us if we were wrong, or we would get hurt or belittled. When we live with a relationship to our higher power, we can stand up for ourselves. A man or woman has a right to make some mistakes, god damn it. We grow more if we allow ourselves the leeway of simply being in process. Today I will not ask to have the power of perfection. I will only ask that I not be alone in the process of living my life." So it's a brand new year. It is 2019. New Year's is a strange time. People act very bizarre when a new year starts. I don't know why that is. I've never really understood that. But there are these things that somewhere along the way we came up with called New Year's resolutions. And they sound great on the cover, but they lead more often than not, to a sense of failure. if you're anything like me, statistics are abysmal for New Year's resolutions. They show that only 1 in 4 people achieve any sort of long-term success or commitment to these resolutions, and that 3/4 of the people polled don't even make it past January 31st before they relapse into whatever nightmarish behavior they were initially running from. So why is this? Why do New Year's resolutions um, so often fail? I think it's because people set goals for themselves that they actually really don't want, right? They don't really want to lose weight. We don't really want to spend more time with our families. We don't want to stop drinking ourselves into a coma or shooting cocaine into our eyeballs or whatever it is. Stuffing our face with cheesecake. I love cheesecake. People set goals because they think they should. Because that's what you do at the beginning of every year. You set goals, right? And then we don't follow through on them. How miserable is that? By the end of February, if you make it that long, statistics show that you won't. Uh, you start falling off, right? And then you quit altogether, and then you're reminded yet again of how weak you are, how much you're defined by your failures year after year after year after year. Or maybe not. Maybe you stick to your resolution. Maybe you're that 1 in 4, that golden child, that overachiever. All good for you. But for the rest of us, it's just another fail. And then you wallow like a fat mama pig in your mud trough of self pity, and that doesn't help anything. Then you're less likely to try again. You're less likely to pick yourself back up and dust yourself back off. I played in punk rock bands all throughout my teenage years and well into my young adulthood, and we didn't have shit. We didn't have any money. Um, um, Most of us were couch surfing or homeless, whatever. So if we wanted something done, we had to do it ourselves. We didn't have a record label to rely on to distribute our music. You know, we sold merchandise at shows. Um, we didn't have a promoter. We didn't have a manager. We couldn't afford that shit. Uh, so we did all that work ourselves, and that put in me the do-it-yourself, the DIY ethic. Yeah, you know, if you want something done a certain way, do it yourself. And maybe it'll take a lot of hard work, and you'll fuck up a bunch along the way, but you'll learn, right? You'll get better. You'll discover things about yourself that you might never have conceived of before. And there's an art to that. It's an expressive spiritual vocabulary that reveals your true nature and then gives you the courage to become that true nature, essentially. And those are the principles of punk rock. And they're also the guiding forces, pretty much, that enable all exploration, inner and outer. The voice that says, fuck you, right? To anyone or anything that tries to interfere, including your own inner wimp, right? The part of you that tries to slink away into the shadows instead of getting on stage. Oh, but I'm a freak. I'm an outsider. I'm a flawed person. I'm a failure. I'll be judged by them, by my mom, by my best friend, by the people who hate me at work if I show my true colors. Yeah, maybe, probably. That's what people do. And so fucking what? If you are at all in touch with reality, right, and your own humanity, you're going to discover pretty soon that you are flawed, you are fucked up, and lots of other horrible, nasty things. If you really look at yourself, depends how willing you are to get down and check out what's really below the surface. That's okay, right? Be that train wreck. Embrace it. Embrace the inner train wreck that is your life, because it's all you got. It's all you have right now. And it's okay. What's not okay is saying, this is all I've got and this is all that I'll ever have. That's not okay. That's bullshit. And that's what the idea of a New Year's resolution is really aiming at, when you get down to it, is becoming, growing into, challenging yourself, pushing yourself. You know, maybe you do want to lose 30 pounds. Maybe you really actually want to lose 30 pounds. You know, maybe you really, really, really are tired of having to get high just to function, just to get through the fucking day. I know I was so fucking tired at the end. I was beat the fuck down. I was tired of it. And I wanted something different. I had no idea how to get there from point A to point B across that seemingly miles wide void of insanity and darkness and desperation. I just knew I needed to jump the fuck over it somehow. And I was willing to find the answers, because that's what I know how to do that. I know how to find something that I really want. If you really want something, you'll find a way to get it done. You'll see life will just start slowly, right? Slowly revealing solutions. People will come into your life at the right time. This is what I believe. This is what I've seen, not only in my life, but also in the lives of my friends, who are, some of them in program, some of them are not, some of them are outside of the program. People dealing with small things up to, people who are facing 20 years in prison for a crazy drunk driving accident, that resulted in the death of someone. If you really open yourself up, you open up your heart, and you open up your eyes, life starts to present things to you. Solutions, chances, opportunities. Maybe not all at once, but just enough sunlight will leak through that grimy, dirty, dusty window full of dead bugs and spider webs and stains from snot rockets. That dirty fucking window that looks to the outside world. Once you've decided that you're going to look through that window in a different way than you ever have before, with willingness, well, then life starts to feed you little pieces of motivation, little pieces of information that you can use to build momentum, because that's what you need. That's what I need. That's what anybody needs to make any kind of long-lasting, meaningful change that's going to sustain you through the upcoming days and weeks and months. You got to have momentum. And then you got to figure out ways to keep that momentum, because that's where 3 out of 4 people myself included, fall off. We don't keep that momentum. We don't do things that contribute to that momentum, things that feed our spirit, because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to keep that momentum at first, but it gets easier. It gets easier as you build momentum, as you keep momentum, as you keep pressing forward, one foot after the other, from hour to hour through your day. And then after today, then we'll talk about tomorrow. Today's all we're working with. We're only working with today. We're only promised today. We're not even promised all of today. All we have right now is right now. We only have this moment. But we can begin to make plans, set goals for ourselves to reach. They don't have to be huge. They don't have to be gigantic. You don't have to say I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Start with 20. Can you do 20? Quitting drinking forever? That sounds fucking tough. How about just for this week? And after this week, maybe we'll talk about next week. We only have this moment. We only have today, if we're lucky. So, stay in the moment. Stay in today. That's all I got for this episode. I'll be back very, very soon with more episodes because this is my New Year's resolution. This is my goal. This podcast. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this. I hope you got something out of it. I ramble a bit. I tend to ramble, but that's what you're going to get with this podcast. I'm a dirty hippie. I'm not so dirty anymore. Foul-mouthed motherfucker from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Take care of yourself. Take care of the ones you love. Like, subscribe, share, or don't. Whatever. Just hang in there. It'll get better. It'll get easier. We'll do this thing together. We'll ride this motherfucking train to the end. Much love. Bye-bye.